Sarah stood at the market stall with her daughter Emma clutching her hand, feeling every eye in the crowd judge her worn coat and scuffed shoes as the vendor held up the necklace she had tried to sell and laughed loud enough for everyone to hear, saying it was nothing but cheap metal and glass beads, calling her a fool for thinking anyone would pay real money for trash. And the other vendors joined in with their mockery while customers whispered and pointed. But what hurt most was seeing 5-year-old Emma's confused face looking up at her, not understanding why these strangers were being so cruel to her mother. Sarah had inherited the necklace from her grandmother, who swore it was valuable, one of the few things left after her husband died, and the medical bills consumed everything they had, and she needed money desperately for rent that was 3 weeks overdue. But now she just wanted to disappear, to take Emma and leave this humiliation behind. The vendor tossed the necklace back at her with a dismissive wave, telling her to stop wasting everyone's time, and Sarah felt tears burning behind her eyes as she turned to go. But then Emma pulled her hand free and walked right up to the vendor's table, her small fingers hovering over the displays of jewelry and stones spread across the worn wood. The vendor started to shoo her away, but Emma pointed at a tray of mixed gemstones he was selling, cheap stuff for tourists, and she said in her clear child's voice that the green one in the corner wasn't glass like he claimed, it was real emerald. And the vendor laughed even harder, asking what a little girl could possibly know about gems. But Emma kept going, pointing to another stone and saying that one was real sapphire even though it was labeled as synthetic, and she touched a silver bracelet and said it was actually platinum underneath the tarnish. Sarah tried to pull Emma away, apologizing, but the vendor's face had changed, the mockery fading into something else, and he picked up the green stone Emma had pointed to, really looking at it now, holding it up to the light, and his expression shifted to surprise. He called over another vendor, an older man who brought a jeweler's loupe, and they examined the stone together, whispering. And then the older man looked at Emma with new interest, asking how she knew, asking if someone had told her, but Emma just shrugged and said she could feel it, that the real stones felt different even though she couldn't explain how. The older vendor tested several more stones from his collection, mixing them up, not telling Emma which was which, and she identified every single one correctly, calling out which were genuine and which were fake or synthetic, even distinguishing between heat-treated and natural stones, and a crowd began to gather, other vendors and customers pressing close to watch this impossible demonstration. Sarah felt dizzy, confused, because Emma had never shown any interest in gems or jewelry before, had never even mentioned anything like this, and yet here she was, speaking with confidence about things she should have no way of knowing. The older vendor asked Emma to look at Sarah's necklace, the one that had just been mocked and rejected, and Emma held it carefully in her small hands, running her fingers over each stone, and she said the blue stones were real sapphires, good quality ones, and the gold was 18 karat, not plated, and the vendor's face went pale because he had a similar necklace in his locked case that he'd been trying to sell for thousands, and this one that he'd dismissed as worthless was potentially just as valuable. He offered Sarah money right there, more than she'd asked for originally, but Emma tugged her mother's sleeve and whispered that he was trying to cheat them, that the necklace was worth much more, and she named a specific amount that made Sarah's head spin. The vendor tried to argue, but other people in the crowd who had been watching started speaking up, saying they wanted the little girl to examine their stones too, asking if Sarah would bring Emma back. And suddenly, instead of mockery, there was opportunity, strange and unexpected and terrifying. Sarah took Emma home without selling the necklace, her mind racing, and that night after Emma was asleep, she sat at their small kitchen table trying to understand what had happened, wondering if it was some kind of trick or coincidence. But she couldn't explain away what she'd seen, the absolute certainty in Emma's voice, the way experienced vendors had been shocked by her accuracy. The next morning, Emma woke up and acted completely normal, playing with her toys, watching cartoons, eating cereal, showing no signs that anything unusual had occurred. And when Sarah carefully asked her about the stones, Emma just said they talked to her in a way, that she could hear them singing different songs. The real ones sang clear and bright, while the fake ones were quiet or wrong. Sarah didn't know what to do with this information, didn't know if she should tell anyone or take Emma to a doctor or keep it secret. But their landlord called that afternoon threatening eviction if they didn't pay by Friday. And Sarah realized that whatever Emma's ability was, it might be their only chance to survive. She called the older vendor from the market, the one who had treated them with respect, and he agreed to meet them at his shop, saying he had some items he needed authenticated, that he would pay for Emma's time regardless of the results. His shop was small but filled with beautiful things, cases of jewelry and loose stones, ancient coins and carved figurines, and Emma walked through it all with wonder in her eyes, touching nothing but somehow knowing everything. And she pointed out pieces that the vendor hadn't been sure about, confirming some of his suspicions and shocking him with others. There was a jade carving he'd bought at an estate sale thinking it was 20th century, but Emma told him it was very old, from a time when emperors ruled, and he had it tested later and found she was right. It was Ming Dynasty, worth 50 times what he'd paid. He started calling Sarah regularly, asking her to bring Emma by, paying them fairly for her assessments, and word spread through the antique and jewelry dealers in the city. Whispered rumors about a child who could spot authenticity with supernatural accuracy. Other dealers reached out, some skeptical, some desperate, all willing to pay for Emma's unique talent, and Sarah found herself navigating a world she'd never imagined, learning about gemology and art history and the complex market of valuable objects, all while trying to protect her daughter from exploitation. Emma seemed to enjoy it at first, the attention and praise, the way adults listened to her seriously instead of dismissing her as just a child. But Sarah noticed subtle changes, the way Emma would come home from particularly long sessions, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion, how she started having nightmares about stones screaming, about being buried under mountains of jewelry that all demanded her attention at once. One dealer pushed too hard, brought too many items, kept Emma working for hours despite Sarah's objections, and Emma finally broke down crying, saying the songs were too loud, that they hurt her head, and Sarah ended the session immediately, carrying Emma out while the dealer shouted about his money and his merchandise. That night, Sarah held Emma close and made a decision, telling her daughter that she didn't have to do this anymore, that they would find another way to pay the bills, that Emma's gift was special, but it wasn't worth her happiness or health. And Emma looked up at her with relieved tears and asked if she was sure, if they would be okay, and Sarah promised they would even though she had no idea how. But Emma surprised her by saying she didn't want to stop completely, that she liked helping people find real treasures, that the songs were beautiful when she wasn't forced to listen to too many at once, and she asked if they could do it differently, slower, with rules that kept it safe. Sarah realized her daughter was braver than she'd given her credit for, and together they created boundaries, limiting sessions to 1 hour, requiring breaks, refusing to work with dealers who were rude or pushy, insisting on fair payment. And surprisingly, most of the dealers accepted these terms because Emma's accuracy was simply that valuable. They developed a routine, visiting shops and collections 2 or 3 times a week, Emma identifying authentic pieces while Sarah handled the business side, negotiating fees and managing schedules. And for the first time since her husband's death, Sarah felt capable and strong, building something meaningful from terrible circumstances. Emma started asking questions about the objects she evaluated, wanting to know their histories, who made them, who owned them, and Sarah researched and learned and taught her daughter about art and culture and human creativity, turning Emma's gift into an education. And they would sit together at night reading about ancient Egypt or Chinese dynasties or Renaissance Italy, connecting the objects Emma touched to the real people who had created and treasured them. But success brought new problems, dealers who tried to manipulate them, who brought fake items mixed with real ones to test Emma's limits, who offered money for exclusive access or tried to hire Emma away from her mother. And Sarah had to learn to be suspicious and protective in ways that went against her naturally trusting nature. There was one dealer named Marcus who seemed different, who treated Emma with genuine kindness, who never pushed, who brought interesting pieces and told their stories. And Sarah found herself looking forward to their appointments, enjoying Marcus's company, and Emma clearly liked him too, would smile when he arrived and show him her latest drawings or tell him about school. Marcus owned a gallery that specialized in estate collections, and he had built his reputation on authenticity, so Emma's ability to verify pieces was incredibly valuable to him. But he seemed to care about her as a person rather than just a resource, and that mattered to Sarah more than she wanted to admit. One evening, Marcus invited them to a special viewing at his gallery, a collection of jewelry that had belonged to a European aristocrat, pieces that were being sold to settle the estate, and the room was filled with wealthy collectors and museum curators, people in expensive clothes drinking champagne and speaking in hushed voices about provenance and value. Emma wore her nicest dress, looking tiny and out of place among the adults. But when Marcus introduced her as his expert consultant, people listened, and Sarah felt proud watching her daughter move through the collection with confidence, gently touching pieces and offering her assessments, impressing these sophisticated buyers with her impossible knowledge. There was a ruby necklace that everyone assumed was the centerpiece of the collection, a stunning piece with deep red stones and intricate gold work, listed in the catalog as belonging to a Russian Grand Duchess, and the bidding was expected to reach 6 figures. But Emma stood in front of it for a long time, her small face troubled, and finally she whispered to Marcus that something was wrong, that the rubies were real, but the setting wasn't original, that someone had taken old stones and put them in new gold, making it look historical when it wasn't. Marcus listened carefully, asked questions, and then did something that stunned everyone in the room. He stopped the auction on that piece, announced that there were questions about its authenticity that needed to be resolved, and several collectors who had been prepared to bid enormous sums were furious, demanding explanations. But Marcus stood firm, protecting his reputation and trusting Emma's assessment over the estate's documentation. Later testing proved Emma right. The necklace was a sophisticated forgery, probably created in the last 20 years using genuine antique stones, and if it had sold under false pretenses, Marcus's gallery would have been destroyed by the scandal. But because he acted on Emma's warning, he was praised for his integrity, and other reputable dealers started seeking his expertise, bringing him more business, and he credited Emma publicly, calling her his secret weapon, his guarantee of authenticity. Sarah and Marcus grew closer through these months, finding comfort in each other's company, and Emma watched them with knowing eyes, asking Sarah one night if she liked Marcus, if maybe he could be her daddy someday. And Sarah felt her heart clench because she hadn't let herself think about that possibility, hadn't wanted to hope for anything beyond survival. But Emma's words made her realize that maybe they deserved more than just getting by. Marcus took them to dinner one night, a nice restaurant where Emma ordered chicken fingers and made them both laugh with her commentary on the fancy food other people were eating. And afterward, they walked through the city park, Emma running ahead to feed ducks while Sarah and Marcus talked about their lives, their fears, their dreams. And he told her that he hadn't planned on falling for anyone, that after his divorce he'd decided to focus on work. But meeting Sarah and Emma had changed everything, had reminded him what mattered. Sarah admitted her own fears, that she worried about using Emma's gift, that she wondered if they were doing the right thing, if exposing Emma to this world of wealth and deception might harm her in ways they couldn't see yet. But Marcus reassured her that Emma was thriving, that she was learning and growing and using her unique ability to do good in the world, and that Sarah was an excellent mother for being so thoughtful about these concerns. They became a kind of family, unofficial but real, Marcus joining them for dinners and school events, teaching Emma about art history, taking them on trips to museums and galleries. And Emma's gift expanded as she learned more. She started being able to sense not just authenticity but origin, could distinguish between stones from different mines, could identify the specific region where ancient pottery was made. And this deeper knowledge made her even more valuable to serious collectors and institutions. A museum reached out through Marcus, asking if Emma would consult on a collection they were considering acquiring, ancient jewelry from a dig site in the Middle East. And the pieces were beautiful, but the provenance was questionable, the documentation sparse, and the museum needed to know if they were genuine before committing millions to the purchase. Sarah was hesitant. This was bigger than anything they'd done before, the pressure enormous. But Emma said she wanted to help, that she could tell if the pieces were really old or if they were fakes, and so they agreed. The museum's head curator was a stern woman named Dr. Chen, who clearly doubted that a 7-year-old could provide reliable expertise, but she had agreed to the consultation at Marcus's insistence, and she watched with skeptical eyes as Emma examined the collection, piece by piece, gold necklaces and silver bracelets, and lapis lazuli beads, each one potentially thousands of years old or potentially worthless forgeries. Emma took her time, holding each piece carefully, closing her eyes, and Sarah could see the concentration on her daughter's face, the way she seemed to go somewhere else in her mind, listening to those songs only she could hear, and after nearly an hour, Emma opened her eyes and said that most of the pieces were genuine, from the right time period, but 3 items were wrong, modern creations made to look ancient, and she pointed them out specifically. Dr. Chen's skepticism turned to shock when laboratory testing confirmed Emma's assessment with perfect accuracy. The 3 pieces Emma identified had been made within the last 50 years using modern techniques that mimicked ancient methods. And without Emma's guidance, the museum would have purchased a compromised collection, their reputation damaged and millions wasted. Dr. Chen apologized for her initial doubt and offered Sarah a consulting contract, regular work authenticating potential acquisitions, and suddenly Emma's gift had taken them to a new level, working with institutions instead of just individual dealers, contributing to scholarship and preservation instead of just commercial transactions. Sarah started researching more seriously, taking online courses in art history and archaeology, wanting to understand the context of the objects Emma evaluated, and she found she had a talent for it, a passion for learning that had been dormant during the years of just surviving, and Marcus encouraged her to pursue a degree, offered to help financially, said she could build a real career in this field. Emma started 2nd grade and seemed happy. She had friends who knew nothing about her ability, who just liked her for being funny and kind, and Sarah was careful to keep that part of Emma's life separate, to make sure she had normal childhood experiences beyond the galleries and museums. But word of Emma's gift had spread beyond their city, and people from other places started reaching out. Collectors from New York and London, museums in Paris and Tokyo, all wanting consultations, and Sarah had to make difficult decisions about what opportunities to accept and what to refuse, always putting Emma's well-being first. There was a particularly lucrative offer from a private collector in Dubai who wanted Emma to spend a week evaluating his collection, offering to pay more than Sarah made in a year, covering all expenses, treating them like royalty. But Emma didn't want to go, said the trip felt wrong, and Sarah trusted her daughter's instincts and declined despite the money. And later they learned that the collector was under investigation for dealing in looted artifacts, pieces stolen from war zones and archaeological sites, and if they had worked with him, they could have been implicated in illegal activities. Emma's instincts protected them more than once. She could sense when people had bad intentions, when they were trying to use her gift for fraud or deception, and she would tell Sarah immediately, and they would walk away no matter how much money was offered, because they had learned that some opportunities weren't worth the risk. Marcus proposed to Sarah on Emma's 8th birthday, during the party in their small apartment with Emma's friends running around eating cake and playing games, and he got down on one knee and asked both of them if they would be his family officially, presenting Sarah with a ring and Emma with a locket, and Emma shouted yes before Sarah could even process the question, throwing her arms around Marcus, and Sarah laughed and cried and said yes too, feeling like maybe their struggles had led them to exactly where they were supposed to be. The wedding was small, just close friends and a few dealers who had become genuine friends over the years. And Emma was the flower girl, beaming with pride, and Sarah wore the sapphire necklace that had started everything, the one that had been mocked at the market, now properly valued and insured, a symbol of how far they'd come. They moved into Marcus's house, a beautiful old place with a garden where Emma could play, and Sarah enrolled in a university program, studying art history formally, and Emma continued her consulting work, but at a slower pace, more selective, focusing on projects that interested her or had educational value. One day a woman came to the gallery, middle-aged and nervous, carrying a small wooden box, and she explained that her father had recently died, and in his belongings she found this box with a note saying it contained something valuable, something he'd been saving for emergencies. But she couldn't tell if he'd been telling the truth or if it was just costume jewelry, and she needed to know because she had medical bills she couldn't pay. Sarah saw herself in this woman, remembered standing at that market stall years ago with her own desperate need and inherited jewelry, and she called Emma over immediately, and Emma opened the box to find a brooch, tarnished silver with dark stones, nothing that looked particularly valuable. But Emma held it carefully and smiled, said the stones were black diamonds, rare ones, and the silver was actually platinum. And the woman started crying because it meant her father had left her something real, something that would solve her problems. Sarah helped the woman find a reputable buyer, making sure she got fair value, and she charged no fee for Emma's consultation, and Marcus agreed with the decision, understanding that some situations called for generosity rather than business, and Emma hugged the woman and told her that her father's gift had been valuable all along, just waiting for the right moment. Years passed, and Emma grew, her gift remaining strong, but becoming more controlled. She learned to turn it off when she wanted to just be a regular kid, learned to set boundaries, learned that being special didn't mean she had to be available to everyone who wanted her help. Sarah finished her degree and started working as a researcher for Marcus's gallery, combining her academic knowledge with Emma's intuitive assessments to create comprehensive evaluations, and they became known as a team, mother and daughter, approaching authentication from two different but complementary directions. Emma started talking about what she wanted to do when she grew up, and surprisingly, she didn't want to make gems and jewelry her career. She wanted to be a teacher, wanted to help other kids learn and grow, and Sarah supported this completely, relieved that Emma saw her gift as just one part of who she was rather than her entire identity. They still did consultations, still helped museums and collectors, but it was on their terms, balanced with school and friends and family time, and the desperation that had driven them in those early days was gone, replaced by choice and control and confidence. Sarah thought sometimes about that day at the market, the humiliation she'd felt, the cruel laughter, the moment when Emma had stepped forward and changed everything, and she realized that the worst moment of her life had actually been the beginning of their salvation, that Emma's gift had been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The vendor who had mocked them reached out years later, apologetic, saying he'd heard about their success and wanted to make amends, and Sarah accepted his apology graciously, but felt no anger anymore, because his cruelty had been the catalyst that pushed Emma to demonstrate her ability, and without that moment, they might never have discovered what she could do. Emma was 12 when she asked if they could go back to that market. She wanted to see where it all started, and Sarah took her, walking through the familiar stalls, and the older vendor, who had been kind, recognized them immediately, greeted them warmly, showed them his shop, which had grown larger, and he thanked them for the opportunities their association had brought him, for the reputation boost of being the first to recognize Emma's talent. Emma bought a small stone from him, a piece of polished turquoise, not because it was valuable, but because it was pretty, because she liked the blue color, and she carried it in her pocket as a reminder that worth wasn't always about money or rarity. Sometimes things were valuable just because they brought joy. Sarah taught at the university now part-time, lecturing about authentication and provenance, and she would sometimes tell her students about Emma, about the mysterious ways talent can manifest, about the importance of recognizing value even when it comes in unexpected forms, and the students were always fascinated by the story, asking questions about how Emma's ability worked, whether it could be learned or taught, but Sarah had no scientific answers, only the certainty that her daughter's gift was real and had saved them both. Marcus's gallery became one of the most respected in the region, known for absolute reliability, and while Emma's consultations were part of that reputation, it was really the integrity that Marcus and Sarah brought to every transaction, the refusal to compromise standards, the commitment to truth over profit, and they built something lasting and good. Emma's nightmares about screaming stones had stopped years ago, replaced by dreams of normal things, school stress and friend drama and teenage worries, and Sarah was grateful that despite everything unusual about their situation, Emma got to have a mostly normal adolescence. They established a scholarship fund for children of single parents, funded by a portion of their consulting fees, helping other families avoid the desperation they had known, and this felt like completing a circle, taking the gift that had saved them and using it to save others. Emma's gift didn't fade as she got older, but it evolved, became more nuanced, and she could sense not just authenticity, but emotional resonance, could tell when an object had been loved, when it carried significance beyond its material value, and this made her particularly valuable for estate evaluations, for helping families understand which pieces their ancestors had truly treasured. Sarah and Marcus had their own child when Emma was 13, a son they named David, and Emma was thrilled to be a big sister, doting on the baby, and they all wondered if he would inherit any special abilities, but Sarah found she didn't care either way, because she had learned that children were gifts regardless of what talents they possessed. The market vendors still talked about Emma. The story had become local legend, the little girl who could identify gems by touch, and new versions of the tale emerged over time, some exaggerated, some simplified, but the core remained true, that a desperate mother and her extraordinary daughter had turned humiliation into opportunity, had built success from mockery, had proven that value exists in unexpected places. Emma gave a speech at her 8th grade graduation about authenticity, about being true to yourself, about recognizing what's real in a world full of imitations, and she didn't mention her gift directly, but everyone who knew their story understood the deeper meaning. And Sarah sat in the audience crying proud tears, amazed at the thoughtful person her daughter was becoming. They took a family trip to Italy, visiting museums and ancient sites, and Emma walked through rooms of Roman jewelry and medieval relics, sometimes touching pieces when curators gave permission, confirming attributions or noting discrepancies, but mostly just enjoying the art and history as a tourist, as a teenage girl taking selfies and eating gelato. And Sarah loved seeing her daughter engage with beauty without the pressure of evaluation. Marcus surprised them with plans to open a second gallery, this one focused specifically on educational programs, teaching young people about art and history and authentication, and Emma would be involved in developing the curriculum, sharing what she knew about recognizing quality and truth. And this felt like the perfect evolution of their journey, from survival to success to service. Sarah sometimes still wore the sapphire necklace, the one that had been rejected and mocked, and she would touch it and remember how far they'd come, how a moment of humiliation had revealed Emma's gift, how the worst day had led to the best life, and she felt grateful for every step of the difficult journey. Emma talked about college now, about studying education and child psychology, about understanding how children learn and develop, and Sarah supported every plan, knowing that whatever Emma chose to do, she would approach it with the same integrity and kindness that had characterized her use of her special gift. The gallery opened, the educational programs launched, and children from all backgrounds came to learn about art and history, some of them from situations like Sarah's had been, struggling families looking for hope, and Emma worked with them patiently, teaching them to look carefully, to question assumptions, to recognize value in themselves and others. Sarah published an article about their experience, careful to protect Emma's privacy, but sharing the broader lessons about talent and opportunity and resilience. And it resonated with readers who saw their own struggles reflected in the story, who found hope in the idea that crisis could lead to transformation. They established boundaries with the press. Emma never gave interviews, never appeared on television. They protected her privacy fiercely even as their story spread, because Sarah knew that childhood was precious and fleeting, and once lost, could never be recovered. And Emma's normal life mattered more than any amount of publicity or profit. David grew into a toddler, energetic and curious, showing no signs of Emma's abilities but displaying his own unique personality. And the family embraced him exactly as he was, applying the same principle they'd learned through Emma's gift, that every person had inherent value beyond what they could do or produce. Marcus renovated an old building, creating a community center that combined the gallery with meeting spaces and classrooms, a place where art and education merged, and Emma cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony, 16 years old and poised, speaking about second chances and the importance of recognizing potential. And Sarah stood beside her feeling complete in a way she'd never imagined possible during those desperate early days. The original vendor from the market, the one who had been kind, retired and gave Emma a gift, his grandfather's jeweler's loupe, the tool he'd used to confirm her first assessments, and Emma treasured it, kept it on her desk as a reminder of where she came from, of the moment when her gift was first recognized and believed. Sarah taught her university students about critical thinking and authentication, and she would end the semester by telling them Emma's story, emphasizing that expertise could come from unexpected sources, that age and credentials weren't the only indicators of knowledge, that staying open to unusual possibilities was crucial in any field, and every year students would approach her afterward asking to meet Emma, to understand her gift better. And Sarah would smile and say that Emma was just a regular teenager now, busy with school and friends and normal life, but the lessons of her gift remained available to anyone willing to learn them, that authenticity could be recognized through attention and care, that value was often hidden beneath ordinary surfaces. waiting to be discovered by those willing to look carefully.